The thick stack of legal documents stared back at me from my kitchen table, Nathan's signature bold and final at the bottom. How had everything gone so wrong so fast? Just 3 days ago, I was walking through that airport with my head held high, telling my husband he needed to accept that I deserved happiness. Now, here I was, alone in our house, holding papers that would change everything forever. I caught my reflection in the kitchen window as I stirred the pasta sauce, and for the first time in months, I actually liked what I saw. The new highlights in my hair caught the light perfectly, and the fitted blouse I'd bought last week made me feel confident in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. At 32, I was finally becoming the woman I was meant to be. "Dinner's almost ready," I called out to Nathan, who was hunched over his laptop at the dining room table, fingers flying across the keyboard. Same position he'd been in for the past 2 hours. Same position he seemed to be in every night lately. "Just give me 5 more minutes, Iridian. I need to finish this code review before tomorrow's meeting," he mumbled without looking up. I set the wooden spoon down harder than necessary, the sharp crack against the granite countertop finally getting his attention. "You said 5 more minutes an hour ago, Nathan. Maggie's already eaten and gone to her room. It's just us now." He glanced up, his brown eyes tired behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm sorry, babe. This project has been killing me. You know how it is." But I didn't know how it was anymore. When had we stopped talking about anything except schedules and bills, and who was picking up Maggie from soccer practice? When had he stopped noticing when I wore something new or tried a different lipstick? "Actually, I don't know how it is," I said, moving to lean against the counter, arms crossed. "You used to make time for us, for me. Remember when we used to talk about our dreams, about traveling, about doing something exciting with our lives?" Nathan closed the laptop slowly, giving me his full attention for the first time all evening. "Iridian, what's this really about? You've been different lately. More, I don't know, restless." Different. The word hung in the air between us. He was right, of course. I had been different. Ever since Sean had reached out on Facebook 3 months ago, I'd started remembering who I used to be. The girl who took risks, who laughed until her sides hurt, who believed in grand gestures and passionate love. "Maybe I'm just tired of settling," I said quietly. "Maybe I'm tired of feeling invisible in my own marriage." My phone buzzed on the counter, and I saw Sean's name flash across the screen. "Hey, beautiful, thinking about you. Hope you're having a better evening than you described earlier." I quickly flipped the phone face down, but not before feeling that familiar flutter in my chest. Someone was thinking about me. Someone found me interesting enough to text just because. "Who was that?" Nathan asked, standing up and walking toward me. "Just Sheila. She's having drama with her boyfriend again." The lie came so easily it scared me a little. But what was I supposed to say? That my high school boyfriend had been texting me for months? That he made me feel alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible? Nathan reached for my hands, his touch gentle but somehow distant. "Iridian, I know I've been distracted with work lately. This new client is demanding, but once we get through the initial launch phase, things will calm down. They always do." I pulled my hands away. "It's not just the work, Nathan. It's everything. We're like roommates who happen to share a daughter. When's the last time we did anything spontaneous? When's the last time you surprised me with anything? I thought you liked our routine. You always said you appreciated stability after your chaotic childhood." Stability. The word felt like a prison sentence. "I'm 32 years old, Nathan. I don't want to spend the rest of my life just existing. I want to feel something again." He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face like he was seeing me for the first time. "What are you saying, Iridian?" Before I could answer, his phone rang. The caller ID showed his mother's name, and I felt my jaw clench automatically. "Don't answer it," I said. "It might be important." "It's never important, Nathan. It's just your mother wanting to know why we haven't called her back, or why Maggie looked tired in the photo I posted last week, or some other way she can insert herself into our business, but he was already answering. "Hi, Mum. No, everything's fine. We were just having dinner." I turned back to the stove, stirring the sauce with sharp, angry movements. Lydia Voss had never liked me, not from the very beginning. She thought Nathan had married beneath him, and she'd spent the last 12 years making sure I knew it. Every family gathering was filled with subtle digs about my job, my family background, my parenting choices. "She wants to know if we're still coming to Paul's barbecue this weekend," Nathan said, covering the phone. "Tell her I might be busy," I replied without turning around. I heard him make some excuse to his mother and hang up. "Iridian, she's trying. She really is." "No, Nathan, she's not. And the fact that you can't see that is part of the problem." I turned to face him, feeling years of frustration bubbling up. "I'm drowning in this life we've built, and everyone just expects me to smile and be grateful. Your mother thinks I should be thrilled to be married to her precious son. My boss thinks I should be satisfied pushing papers for the rest of my career. Even you think I should be happy with this nothing we've become." "It's not nothing," Nathan said quietly. "We have a good life, Iridian. We have Maggie. We have this house. We have each other. Isn't that enough?" The question hung between us like a challenge. My phone buzzed again, and this time, I didn't bother hiding my smile when I saw Sean's message. "Remember when we used to drive to the lake at midnight just to see the stars? You always said you wanted to travel the world. Do you still dream about those things?" Yes, I wanted to text back. I dream about them every single day. Instead, I looked at my husband's expectant face and felt something inside me harden. "No, Nathan, it's not enough. Not anymore." I walked past him toward the stairs, leaving the pasta sauce simmering on the stove. "I'm going to check on Maggie, and then I'm meeting Sheila for drinks. Don't wait up." As I climbed the stairs, I could hear Nathan moving around the kitchen, probably serving himself the dinner I'd abandoned. Always practical, always making the best of whatever situation he found himself in. It used to be one of the things I loved about him. Now it just felt like another reminder of how different we'd become. In Maggie's room, I found her curled up with a book, her dark hair falling across her face in a way that reminded me of Nathan. She looked up when I knocked on the doorframe. "Is everything okay, Mom? You and Dad seemed upset at dinner." I forced a smile and sat on the edge of her bed. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Adults just have complicated conversations sometimes. How was school today?" She told me about her math test and the drama in her friend group, normal 10-year-old concerns that seemed so simple compared to the mess I was making of my life. As I listened to her, I felt a pang of guilt. What was I doing? What was I risking? But then my phone buzzed again, and I saw a photo from Sean. He was at some outdoor concert, grinning at the camera with that same mischievous smile that had made me fall for him in high school. "Wish you were here," the caption read. I wished I was there too. I wished I was anywhere but in this suburban house, having the same conversations, living the same day over and over again. After tucking Maggie in, I changed into the new jeans and top I'd bought the week before. In the mirror, I looked like someone who had places to go, people to see. Someone interesting. Nathan was loading the dishwasher when I came downstairs, moving with the same methodical efficiency he brought to everything. He looked up when I entered the kitchen, and I saw something flicker across his face when he took in my appearance. "You look nice," he said carefully. "Very different." "Thanks." I grabbed my purse from the counter, checking to make sure I had everything I needed. "Iridian," Nathan said as I headed for the door. "Are we okay? Really?" I paused with my hand on the doorknob. This was the moment. I could turn around, sit down with my husband, and try to work through whatever was happening to us. I could be honest about Sean, about the way I'd been feeling, about the growing distance between us. Instead, I said, "We're fine, Nathan. I just need some space to think." As I backed out of the driveway, I saw him standing in the kitchen window, watching me leave. For a moment, I almost turned around. Almost. But Sean was waiting for me at Rossetti's, the little Italian place downtown, where we'd been meeting for coffee that had gradually turned into dinners, where he listened to me talk about my dreams and made me feel like the most fascinating woman in the world. I drove toward downtown, toward the life I'd been missing, and tried not to think about the look on Nathan's face as I'd walked away. Rossetti's was dimly lit and intimate, with red checkered tablecloths and the kind of cozy booths that made private conversations feel even more secret. Sean was already waiting when I arrived, looking effortlessly handsome in a way that made my heart skip. He stood up when he saw me, that familiar grin spreading across his face. "There she is," he said, pulling me into a hug that lasted just a beat longer than friendship required. "You look incredible, Iridian. Absolutely incredible." I slid into the booth across from him, feeling that electric buzz I got whenever we were together. "You don't look so bad yourself." The waiter appeared immediately, as if he'd been watching for my arrival. Sean ordered wine for both of us without asking what I wanted, a gesture that would have annoyed me coming from Nathan, but somehow felt romantic coming from him. "So," Sean said, leaning forward with his elbows on the table, "how did Nathan react to your new look? I bet he didn't even notice." I thought about Nathan's careful compliment, the way he'd said, I looked different, like it was something to be concerned about rather than celebrated. He noticed. He just doesn't know what to do with a wife who's not content to fade into the background anymore. "His loss," Sean said, raising his wine glass, "to the most beautiful woman in the room. In any room." We clinked glasses, and I felt that familiar warmth spread through my chest. When was the last time Nathan had made me feel beautiful? When was the last time he'd looked at me like Sean was looking at me now, like I was the only person who mattered? My phone buzzed. Nathan's name appeared on the screen. "Hope you're having fun with Sheila. Love you." The guilt hit me like a physical blow, but Sean reached across the table and covered my hand with his. "Don't let him ruin your evening. You deserve to be happy, Iridian. You deserve to be with someone who appreciates what he has." I turned my phone face down on the table. "I know. It's just complicated." "It doesn't have to be." Sean's thumb traced circles on my hand. "Remember senior year, when we talked about driving cross-country after graduation? Seeing everything, doing everything. You had so many dreams." "I still have dreams," I said quietly. "Then why are you settling for a life that's crushing them?" It was a good question. Why was I settling? Why had I convinced myself that stability was more important than happiness? That being a good wife meant disappearing into someone else's idea of what my life should look like? "I need to post something," I said suddenly, pulling out my phone. "For appearances." I quickly texted my sister Sheila, "Can you meet me at Rossetti's for a quick drink? I need a photo for social media. Long story." She texted back immediately, "On my way. This sounds juicy." 20 minutes later, Sheila burst through the restaurant door like a whirlwind of blonde hair and enthusiasm. At 29, she was everything I sometimes wished I could be: spontaneous, fearless, unapologetically herself. "Okay, what's the emergency?" she asked, sliding into the booth next to me. Then she saw Sean and her eyes widened. Oh, this is happening." "Sheila, you remember Sean Larkin from high school?" I said, feeling my cheeks heat up. "The Sean Larkin? The one you never got over?" Sheila grinned and extended her hand across the table. "I'm Sheila, Iridian's much cooler younger sister." Sean laughed, shaking her hand. "I've heard a lot about you, all good things." "I need you to take a photo with me," I told Sheila. "Something I can post to show I'm out with you tonight." Sheila's grin widened. "Sister, you are playing with fire, and I am absolutely here for it." She pulled out her phone and scooted closer to me. "Sean, you'll have to duck out of frame for a minute." We took several photos, laughing and posing like we were having the time of our lives. Which, honestly, I was. When was the last time I'd laughed like this? When was the last time I'd felt this alive? I posted the best photo with the caption, Girls' night with my amazing sister. Sometimes you just need to get out and remember who you are. War, sisterhood, war, living my best life. The likes and comments started rolling in immediately. Friends from work, old classmates, even some of Nathan's family members, everyone buying the illusion that I was just having an innocent night out with my sister. I should probably go, Sheila said after finishing her drink. But Iridian, be careful, okay? I want you to be happy, but make sure you know what you're doing. After she left, Sean and I were alone again, the air between us charged with possibility. The wine had made me bold, and the success of our little deception made me feel invincible. Walk me to my car? I asked when we finally decided to leave. Outside, the night air was cool and filled with the sounds of downtown nightlife. Other couples walked by, holding hands, laughing, looking like they were living the kind of life I wanted for myself. I had an amazing time tonight, Sean said as we reached my car. I always do when I'm with you. Me too. I leaned against the driver's side door, not quite ready for the evening to end. Iridian, Sean said, stepping closer. I know this is complicated. I know you have a life, responsibilities, but I can't stop thinking about you, about us, about what we could have if you were brave enough to take it. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Sean, just think about it, he said, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. Think about what you really want, not what everyone else expects from you, but what you want. He kissed my cheek, soft and sweet, and then stepped back. I'll follow you out of the parking lot. Make sure you get to the street safely. As I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about his words. What did I want? For so long, I'd been focused on what I was supposed to want. A stable marriage, a nice house, a well-behaved daughter. But what about the dreams I'd had before I became Mrs. Nathan Voss? What about the woman I'd been before I'd convinced myself that wanting more was selfish? I was so lost in thought that I didn't notice the car following me until I was almost home. It wasn't Sean. He'd turned off several blocks ago. This car stayed behind me as I turned into my neighborhood, and my heart started racing for an entirely different reason. But then the car continued past my street, and I told myself I was being paranoid. Still, as I pulled into my driveway, I found myself looking around nervously, wondering if anyone had seen me tonight, wondering if my carefully constructed lie was as foolproof as I'd thought. Nathan was already in bed when I got home, reading on his tablet. He looked up when I entered the bedroom, his expression unreadable. "How was your evening with Sheila?" he asked. "Good. Really good. We went to that new wine bar downtown." Another lie, so smooth it scared me. "I saw the photo you posted. You looked happy." There was something in his voice, a careful neutrality that made me wonder if he suspected something. But then he set his tablet aside and patted the bed next to him. "Come here," he said softly. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about us, about feeling invisible." I changed into my pajamas slowly, buying time. Part of me wanted to climb into bed next to my husband and try to rebuild what we'd lost. But another part of me, the part that was still buzzing from Sean's attention, wasn't ready to give up the feeling of being truly wanted. "Nathan," I said, sitting on the edge of the bed, "I think I need some space, some time to figure out what I want." His face fell slightly, but he nodded. "Okay, whatever you need. We can try counseling, or maybe plan a trip, just the two of us. Remember how much fun we had in Charleston for our anniversary a few years ago?" I did remember. We'd walked on the beach, eaten at amazing restaurants, made love like we were still newlyweds. It had been perfect. So why did it feel like a lifetime ago? "Maybe," I said, but we both knew I didn't mean it. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Nathan's steady breathing beside me, I thought about Sean's question. What did I want? For the first time in years, I was starting to figure it out. My phone lit up with a text message, and I carefully reached for it, making sure not to wake Nathan. It was from Sean. Sweet dreams, beautiful. Tonight was just the beginning. I smiled in the darkness and typed back, I can't wait to see what comes next. As I hit send, I caught a glimpse of Nathan in my peripheral vision. For a moment, I thought he might be awake, watching me, but when I looked directly at him, his eyes were closed, his breathing even. Still, as I finally drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight, that the careful balance I'd been maintaining was starting to crumble. I just didn't realize how quickly everything would fall apart. The office break room buzzed with Monday morning energy as I poured my coffee, trying to ignore the way my co-workers kept glancing in my direction. I'd been getting looks all morning, and I couldn't figure out why until Jennifer from accounting cornered me by the microwave. So, she said with barely concealed excitement, who's the mystery man? My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Come on, Iridian. We've all noticed the changes. New clothes, new hair, staying late for meetings that aren't on your calendar. And then there was that phone call on Friday. What phone call? Jennifer's eyes lit up like she'd been waiting for this moment. The one where you were giggling like a teenager and saying things like, I can't wait to see you too. In the supply closet, with the door closed. I felt my face burn with embarrassment and anger. That was a personal call with my sister, and I'm entitled to privacy. Your sister, huh? Jennifer smirked. Funny, because when I walked by, I could have sworn I heard you say, I've been thinking about that night too. Must be some relationship you have with your sister. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Sean's name flashed across the screen, and without thinking, I answered it right there in front of everyone. Hey you, I said, automatically softening my voice. Hey beautiful, I was just thinking about Saturday night. When can I see you again? I became acutely aware of the silence in the break room, the way every conversation had stopped. Can I call you back? I'm at work. Of course, but Iridian, I meant what I said about that weekend trip. Think about it, okay? My heart stopped. Weekend trip? He'd mentioned it briefly on Saturday, but I'd thought he was just fantasizing. We'll talk later, I said quickly and hung up. The break room erupted in whispers the moment I left. I could feel their eyes following me as I walked back to my desk, and I knew that by lunch, everyone in the office would be speculating about my personal life. At my desk, I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering to Sean's call. A weekend trip. Just the two of us. When was the last time I'd done something spontaneous like that? When was the last time someone had wanted to whisk me away for a romantic getaway? My computer chimed with a new email. Nathan's name appeared in my inbox with the subject line, Lunch today? Hi babe, the email read. I know things have been tense between us lately, and I want to fix that. Can I take you to lunch today? That place you like with the good salads? I can pick you up at noon. Love you. I stared at the email for a long time. Nathan was trying. He was making an effort to reconnect, to give me the attention I'd been craving. 6 months ago, this email would have made me happy. Now it just felt like an obligation. I typed back, sorry, already have plans with the girls from work. Rain check? Another lie. I was getting so good at them, it was starting to worry me. Instead of meeting Nathan for lunch, I found myself driving to the park where Sean and I had agreed to meet. He was waiting on a bench by the lake, looking like something out of a romance novel, with his dark hair catching the sunlight. There's my girl, he said, standing up to greet me with a hug that felt like coming home. I can't stay long, I said, even as I settled onto the bench beside him. People at work are starting to talk. Let them talk. You're not doing anything wrong, Iridian. You're just remembering who you are. Am I? Because sometimes I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. Sean turned to face me fully, his expression serious. You're the girl who used to sneak out of her house to meet me at midnight. You're the woman who dreamed of seeing Paris and Rome and all those places we talked about. You're someone who deserves to be cherished, not taken for granted. Sean, I'm serious about the weekend trip, he said, taking my hand. There's this little bed and breakfast up in the mountains. We could leave Friday afternoon, come back Sunday evening. Just us, no pressure, no expectations. Just a chance to see what this could be. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Hope you're having a good lunch. Maggie has a soccer game at 4 if you want to come watch. The contrast was stark. Nathan texting about our daughter's soccer game. Sean talking about romantic getaways. One represented responsibility and routine. The other represented freedom and passion. I need time to think about it, I said. Of course, but don't think too long, okay? Life is short, Iridian. We've already wasted 15 years. As I drove back to work, I couldn't stop thinking about his words. Had we wasted 15 years? What would my life have looked like if I'd chosen differently back then? If I'd been brave enough to follow my heart instead of playing it safe? Back at the office, I found an email waiting from Lydia, Nathan's mother. The subject line read, "Concerning social media post." My stomach dropped as I opened it. "Iridian," the email began in Lydia's characteristically formal tone, "I saw the photo you posted from your evening out with Sheila. While I'm glad you're spending time with family, I couldn't help but notice that the timestamp on the photo shows it was taken at 8:47 p.m., but you didn't get home until after 11:30. Nathan mentioned you seemed distracted when you returned. I hope everything is all right. Perhaps we could have coffee this week to catch up. Best regards, Lydia." My hands were shaking as I read the email. How did she know what time I'd gotten home? Had Nathan told her? Was he suspicious enough to involve his mother? I deleted the email without responding and tried to focus on work, but concentration was impossible. Every phone call, every email, every conversation felt loaded with hidden meaning. When my coworker Mark mentioned that his wife had been acting strange lately, I was sure he was talking about me. When my boss asked if everything was okay, I was convinced someone had told him about the rumors. By the time 5 o'clock arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. I packed up my things quickly, desperate to get out of the office and away from all the knowing looks and whispered conversations. But as I walked to my car, I found Nathan leaning against it, holding a bouquet of flowers. "Surprise," he said with a tentative smile. "I know you said you had lunch plans, but I thought maybe I could drive you home. We could pick up Maggie together, maybe get dinner somewhere nice." The flowers were beautiful, white roses, my favorite. He'd remembered, despite everything that had been happening between us. Despite the way I'd been pulling away, he was still trying to save our marriage. "Nathan, you didn't have to." "I wanted to. Iridian, I know I've been distracted lately, but I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose us." I took the flowers, their sweet fragrance making me feel even more guilty about the afternoon I'd spent with Sean. "They're beautiful. Thank you." As we drove home together, Nathan chatted about his day, about a new project at work, about Maggie's upcoming school play. Normal, everyday conversation that should have felt comfortable, but instead felt like a costume that no longer fit. "So, how was lunch with the girls?" he asked as we pulled into our driveway. "Fine, just the usual gossip and complaining about work." "That's good. I worry that you don't have enough fun in your life. I'm glad you're getting out more." The irony was crushing. Nathan was encouraging me to have more fun, to get out more, completely unaware that I was using that freedom to betray him. That evening, as we sat around the dinner table like a normal family, I watched my husband and daughter talk about their days and felt like an imposter. Maggie was telling Nathan about a boy in her class who kept pulling her hair, and Nathan was giving her advice about how to handle bullies, and I was sitting there thinking about Sean's invitation. A weekend away. Just the two of us. A chance to see what we could be. After dinner, while Nathan was helping Maggie with her homework, I stepped outside to call Sean back. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told him, "about the weekend." "And?" I looked back at the house, where I could see Nathan and Maggie through the kitchen window, their heads bent over her math workbook. My family, my life, everything I was supposed to want. "I think I need to do this," I said. "I need to know." "Know what?" if there's something better out there for me, if I've been settling for less than I deserve. Sean was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back. Everything changes. I thought about Jennifer's knowing looks, about Lydia's suspicious email, about Nathan's flowers, and his desperate attempt to reconnect. Everything was already changing. I was just finally brave enough to admit it. I'm sure, I said. Let's do it. As I hung up the phone and walked back into the house, I felt like I was crossing a line I'd never be able to uncross. But for the first time in years, I also felt truly alive. I just didn't realize that Nathan had been standing at the window, watching me make that call. Maggie's 10th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration, but as I arranged the decorations in our backyard, I could feel the tension crackling in the air like electricity before a storm. Nathan had been quiet all morning, moving through the preparations with mechanical efficiency, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us. "Mum, do you think Uncle Paul will bring his guitar?" Maggie asked, bouncing on her toes with excitement. She was wearing the new dress I'd bought her, blue with little flowers, and she looked so young and innocent that my heart ached. "I'm sure he will, sweetheart." "You know how much he loves to show off," I said, forcing a smile. The first guests started arriving around 2:00. Paul came with his wife Carmen and their twin boys, immediately filling the backyard with noise and laughter. Sheila showed up with a gift bag bigger than Maggie herself, already dressed like she was going to a nightclub instead of a 10-year-old's birthday party. And then Lydia arrived. Nathan's mother swept into the backyard like she owned it, carrying a perfectly wrapped present and wearing that smile she reserved for family gatherings. The one that looked warm from a distance but turned cold when she looked directly at me. "Maggie, darling," she exclaimed, pulling her granddaughter into a hug. "Double digits. You're practically grown up." "Hi, Grandma Lydia. Did you see the decorations Mom put up? She worked really hard on them." Lydia glanced around the yard with the kind of assessment that made me feel like I was being graded. "They're lovely, dear. Very colourful." I bit back my response and focused on lighting the candles on Maggie's cake. 10 little flames for 10 years of my daughter's life. Where had the time gone? And what kind of example was I setting for her now? "Iridian, you look different," Lydia said, appearing beside me at the patio table. "New haircut?" "Just highlights," I replied, not looking up from the cake. And that top is very youthful. Are you having some kind of midlife crisis?" The question hit like a slap, but before I could respond, Nathan appeared with drinks for everyone. "Mum, please, not today." "I'm just making conversation with my daughter-in-law," Lydia said innocently. Although she seems very distracted lately. Always on her phone, always rushing off somewhere. "I hope everything is all right at home." I felt my temper flare. "Everything is fine, Lydia. Thank you for your concern." "Of course it is. I just worry about Maggie, you know. Children are so sensitive to changes in the household dynamic." Sheila appeared at my other side, a glass of wine already in her hand, despite it being barely 3:00. "Iridian is doing great, Mrs. Voss. She's finally starting to live a little. Right, sis?" The look that passed between Lydia and Sheila could have frozen water. Two women who had never liked each other, now facing off over my choices. "Living a little," Lydia repeated. "How interesting. And what does that involve exactly?" "Girls' nights out, new clothes, remembering that she's more than just a wife and mother," Sheila said with a defiant tilt of her chin. "You know, actually having fun for once." "Fun?" Lydia's voice dripped with disapproval. "Well, I suppose everyone has their own definition of that word." I excused myself and walked to the other side of the yard, where Paul was indeed tuning his guitar while the kids gathered around him. At least someone was focused on what this day was supposed to be about. But even as I watched Maggie laugh at her uncle's jokes, I couldn't stop thinking about Sean. He'd texted me that morning. "Happy birthday to your beautiful daughter. Wish I could celebrate with you." And I'd spent the entire morning fighting the urge to text him back. "You seem far away." Nathan said, joining me by the fence. Just watching Maggie. She's growing up so fast. She is. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Iridian, we need to talk, after everyone leaves tonight. My stomach dropped. About what? You know about what. Before I could respond, Sheila called out that it was time for cake. We all gathered around the patio table, singing Happy Birthday, while Maggie beamed and made her wish. As she blew out the candles, I found myself wondering what she'd wished for. A new bike? A puppy? For her parents to stop looking at each other like strangers? Speech, Paul called out. Come on, Nathan, say something about your little girl turning 10. Nathan stood up, clearing his throat. 10 years ago, Maggie made me a father and made our little family complete. She's smart, funny, kind, and everything good about Iridian and me combined. His eyes found mine across the table. Family is the most important thing in the world. It's what we fight for, what we protect, what we never give up on. The words felt loaded with meaning, and I could feel everyone watching my reaction. I raised my glass with everyone else, but the champagne tasted flat. As the afternoon wore on, I found myself getting more and more irritated with everything. Lydia's passive-aggressive comments about my parenting. Nathan's meaningful looks every time I checked my phone. The way everyone seemed to be watching me, waiting for me to slip up somehow. When my phone buzzed with another text from Sean, thinking about our weekend plans. Can't wait to have you all to myself. I couldn't help but smile. Good news? Lydia asked, appearing beside me again, like a hawk circling prey. Just a friend, I said, but I didn't put the phone away fast enough. Lydia's sharp eyes had already seen Sean's name on the screen. Sean, she mused. That's a nice name. Do I know this friend? I doubt it. He's from high school. High school friends can be so nostalgic. All those memories of who we used to be before we grew up and accepted our responsibilities. I turned to face her fully. What exactly are you trying to say, Lydia? I'm not trying to say anything, dear. I'm saying it directly. You're acting like a woman who's forgotten what she has to lose. Maybe what I have isn't worth keeping, I snapped, the words out before I could stop them. The conversation around us died. Nathan stopped mid-sentence in whatever he was saying to Paul. Sheila's eyes widened. Even the kids seemed to sense that something important had just happened. Excuse me? Lydia's voice was ice cold. You heard me. Maybe I'm tired of pretending to be grateful for a life that's slowly suffocating me. Maybe I want more than this suburban prison where everyone judges every move I make. Iridian, Nathan said quietly. Not here. Not now. But I was past caring. Months of frustration, of feeling trapped and invisible and taken for granted, came pouring out. No, Nathan. She wants to know what's going on with me. I'll tell her. I'm tired of being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter-in-law. I'm tired of having to ask permission to feel alive. I'm 32 years old, and I feel like I'm disappearing a little more every day. So you're having an affair, Lydia said flatly. The words hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Maggie looked confused. Paul's mouth fell open. Carmen grabbed her boys and started herding them toward the house. That's enough, Nathan said, his voice sharp with anger. Mom, you need to leave, now. I'm not going anywhere until someone explains to me why my granddaughter has to grow up in a broken home because her mother is chasing some fantasy. It's not a fantasy, I shouted. It's called being happy. It's called feeling wanted and appreciated and alive. Things I haven't felt in this marriage for years. So you are having an affair, Nathan said quietly. The question hung between us like a challenge. This was it, the moment of truth. I could deny it, try to salvage what was left of my marriage, go back to being the woman everyone expected me to be. Or I could finally be honest. I'm remembering who I used to be, I said, before I became someone I don't even recognize. Nathan's face went white. Get them out of here, he said to Paul, nodding toward the kids. Take Maggie inside, now. As Paul hustled the children away from what was clearly about to become an ugly scene, I felt a moment of clarity. What was I doing? This was my daughter's birthday party. This was supposed to be a day of celebration, of family, of joy, but it was too late to take it back. His name is Sean, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos I was creating. Sean Larkin. We dated in high school, and he contacted me a few months ago. And yes, I've been seeing him, because he makes me feel like a person instead of just a function. Lydia made a sound like she'd been physically struck. Sheila was staring at me with a mixture of admiration and horror. And Nathan looked like I'd just ripped his heart out of his chest. How long? He asked. It doesn't matter. How long, Iridian? 3 months. But Nathan, it's not what you think. We're just talking, just remembering what it felt like to dream about something more than grocery lists and soccer schedules. Just talking, Nathan repeated. And the weekend trip he texted you about? Is that just talking too? My blood went cold. How did you... I saw you on the phone last night. I heard enough. Nathan sat down heavily in one of the patio chairs, suddenly looking older than his 35 years. My wife is planning a romantic getaway with another man, and I heard about it by accident. Nathan, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen like this. But you meant for it to happen. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't, because the truth was, I had meant for it to happen. Maybe not consciously at first, but somewhere along the way, I'd made the choice to let Sean back into my life. I'd made the choice to nurture whatever was growing between us. I'd made the choice to prioritize my own happiness over my family's stability. I want you to leave, Nathan said quietly. What? I want you to pack a bag and leave. Tonight. Go to Sheila's, go to a hotel, I don't care. But I can't look at you right now. Nathan, please. Let's talk about this. Let's figure it out. There's nothing to figure out, Iridian. You've made your choice. You chose him over us, over Maggie, over everything we built together. That's not fair. You don't understand what it's been like for me. You're right, Nathan said, standing up. I don't understand how a mother can blow up her daughter's birthday party to announce she's having an affair. I don't understand how a wife can look her husband in the eye and tell him she's planning a romantic weekend with another man. I don't understand any of this. He walked toward the house, then stopped and turned back. But I understand enough. You want to remember who you used to be? Go ahead, but you can't do it while you're living in my house, sleeping in my bed and pretending to be Maggie's mother. The back door slammed behind him, leaving me alone in the backyard with the remnants of my daughter's birthday party. Balloons drifted in the breeze. The cake sat half-eaten on the table. And somewhere inside the house I could hear Maggie crying. I'd gotten what I wanted. I'd finally been honest about Sean, about my feelings, about the life I thought I deserved. So why did it feel like I'd just destroyed everything that mattered? The airport departure lounge hummed with Friday morning energy as I sat across from Nathan in uncomfortable plastic chairs, a small suitcase at my feet, and my plane ticket clutched in my sweaty palm. 3 days had passed since Maggie's birthday disaster. 3 days of sleeping at Sheila's apartment and fielding angry calls from Nathan's family. Nathan looked exhausted, his usually neat hair disheveled and dark circles under his eyes. He'd barely spoken during the drive to the airport, answering my attempts at conversation with one-word responses or silence. You don't have to do this, he said finally, his voice hoarse. You can still change your mind. I looked down at my ticket. Flight 447 to Denver, departing at 10:30 a.m. Sean was probably already there, waiting for me at that little bed and breakfast he'd described, planning romantic dinners and long walks, and all the things Nathan and I had stopped doing years ago. I need this, Nathan. I need to know. Know what? Whether the grass is greener? Whether you can recapture some fantasy from high school? His voice was bitter, angrier than I'd ever heard it. What about what Maggie needs? What about what our marriage needs? Our marriage has been dead for years. We've just been too comfortable to admit it. Nathan flinched like I'd slapped him. Is that really what you think? That 12 years of marriage, building a life together, raising our daughter together. Is that all meaningless to you? I wanted to say yes, that it was meaningless, that I'd outgrown our small suburban life, but looking at Nathan's devastated face, I couldn't quite manage it. It's not meaningless, I said quietly, but it's not enough anymore. So, you're willing to throw it all away for a weekend with some guy you haven't seen in 15 years? He's not just some guy. Sean understands me. He sees who I really am, not just the role I play in your life. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, staring at the departure board above our heads. Do you remember our first apartment? He asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. What? That tiny studio above the pizza place. We could barely afford the rent, and the neighbors upstairs played music until 3 a.m. But you said it was perfect because it was ours. I did remember. We'd been so young, so broke, so happy. We'd made love on a mattress on the floor and eaten cereal for dinner because we couldn't afford groceries and furniture in the same month. That was different, I said. We were different. No, Iridian. We were the same people we are now. The only thing that's different is that you've decided what we have isn't good enough. My phone buzzed with a text from Sean. Boarding soon. Can't wait to see you, beautiful. I smiled despite myself, and Nathan caught it. There it is, he said quietly. That's the smile I used to get, before I became the enemy. You're not the enemy, Nathan. You're safe. You're predictable. You're everything I thought I wanted when I was 20 and scared of taking risks. And now I want to feel alive again. I want to feel like anything is possible. Nathan stood up and walked to the big windows overlooking the tarmac. You know what's going to happen, don't you? You're going to spend a weekend playing house with this guy, living in a fantasy where there are no bills to pay, no responsibilities, no real life to deal with, and it's going to feel amazing because it's not real. Maybe real is overrated. Real is our daughter crying herself to sleep every night since your little announcement. Real is me having to explain to my family why my wife left me for her high school boyfriend. Real is the mess you're leaving behind while you go play pretend. I felt a stab of guilt about Maggie, but I pushed it away. She'll understand when she's older. She'll understand that sometimes people have to make hard choices to be happy. Will she? Or will she learn that when things get difficult, you just run away? That commitment means nothing when something more exciting comes along. The boarding announcement for my flight crackled over the intercom. Flight 447 to Denver, now boarding all passengers. I stood up and grabbed my suitcase. I have to go. Nathan turned from the window to face me. If you get on that plane, Iridian, I'm done. I'm not going to sit at home waiting for you to get this out of your system. I'm not going to be your backup plan when reality sets in. I'm not asking you to wait. Good, because I won't. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. I was hoping I wouldn't have to give this to you. My hands shook as I took the envelope. What is it? Open it when you land. When you're in your romantic little getaway, thinking about how brave and free you are. The boarding announcement came again, more urgent this time. Final call for flight 447 to Denver. I looked at Nathan, really looked at him, maybe for the first time in months. He was a good man, a loyal husband, a devoted father, everything any reasonable woman should want. But I didn't feel reasonable anymore. I felt wild and reckless and alive in a way I hadn't felt since I was 17 years old. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I'm sorry it has to be this way. No, you're not, Nathan replied. If you were really sorry, you wouldn't be leaving. I walked toward the gate, my suitcase rolling behind me, the envelope clutched in my other hand. At the boarding line, I turned back one more time. Nathan was still standing by the window, watching me leave. For a moment, I almost ran back to him, almost threw my arms around him and begged him to forgive me, to help me remember why I'd fallen in love with him in the first place. Instead, I handed my ticket to the gate agent and walked down the jetway toward my new life. The plane was half empty, and I found my window seat easily. As we taxied toward the runway, I could see the terminal getting smaller and smaller. Somewhere in there, Nathan was probably calling a cab, going home to our empty house, trying to figure out how to explain to Maggie why Mommy wasn't coming home. I pushed the thought away and focused on what was waiting for me in Denver. Sean's smile, his laugh, the way he made me feel like the most fascinating woman in the world. A weekend of being cherished instead of taken for granted. Once we were airborne, I remembered the envelope Nathan had given me. My hands were still shaking as I opened it, expecting legal papers or a letter begging me to come home. Instead, I found a single sheet of paper with a brief message typed in Nathan's careful, precise style. Iridian, by the time you read this, you'll have made your choice. I want you to know that I understand why you made it, even if I don't agree with it. You're right about one thing. We have grown apart. We have become strangers, living in the same house. But I thought that was something we could fix together. I thought our family was worth fighting for. I was wrong about what you wanted, and you were wrong about what you meant to me. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope it makes you happy. Because this is the last time I'll be part of your story. Take care of yourself. Nathan. I read the letter 3 times before the words really sank in. This wasn't a desperate plea for me to come back. This wasn't an ultimatum or a threat. This was goodbye. My phone had service for a few more minutes before we climbed too high, and I quickly typed out a text to Nathan. I got your letter. We can talk when I get back. This doesn't have to be the end. But the message wouldn't send. No service. No connection to the life I was leaving behind. As the plane climbed higher into the clouds, I stared out the window at the ground disappearing below me. Somewhere down there was my daughter, my home, my husband, who had just told me he was done fighting for our marriage. But ahead of me was Sean, and possibility, and the chance to be the woman I'd always dreamed of being. I closed my eyes and tried to convince myself I was making the right choice. I just wished it felt more like flying and less like falling. The bed and breakfast was everything Sean had promised: rustic charm, mountain views, and the kind of romantic atmosphere that belonged in a movie. We'd spent Saturday hiking, talking, and pretending we were the kind of couple who took spontaneous weekend trips. Sean had been attentive and charming, telling me I was beautiful, that I deserved better than the life I'd been settling for. But Sunday night, alone in the quaint room with its antique furniture and mountain silence, I couldn't stop thinking about Nathan's letter, about the finality in his words, about Maggie crying herself to sleep. Monday morning came too soon, and the flight back to reality felt like a descent into something I wasn't ready to face. Sean had kissed me goodbye at the Denver airport, promising to call as soon as I was ready to take the next step, whatever that meant. Now I was sitting in my rental car, outside Nathan's law office, our law office, I corrected myself since we were still married, staring at the building where we'd signed our mortgage papers, drawn up our wills, planned our future together. The law office of Morrison and Associates was in a converted Victorian house downtown, all dark wood and leather furniture that was supposed to convey trustworthiness and stability. I'd been here dozens of times over the years for various legal needs, and Janet Morrison had always greeted me like family. Today, she looked at me like I was a stranger. "Mrs. Voss," she said formally as I entered the waiting area. "Please have a seat. Mr. Morrison will be with you shortly." Not Janet, like it had been for 12 years. Not, "How are you, honey?" Or, "How's that beautiful daughter of yours?" Just cold professionalism that made my stomach clench with dread. I didn't have to wait long. Tom Morrison appeared in the doorway of his office within minutes, his expression unreadable. "Iridian, thank you for coming in so promptly." I followed him into his office, noting that he didn't offer coffee or make small talk like he usually did. The man who had handled our legal affairs for over a decade was treating me like any other client walking in off the street. "Tom, what's this about? Nathan's message said it was urgent, but he wouldn't tell me anything else." Tom settled behind his massive oak desk and opened a thick file folder. "I think you know what this is about, Iridian. Your husband has retained my services to handle the dissolution of your marriage. The words hit me like a physical blow. Dissolution? You mean divorce? I mean exactly that. Tom's voice was matter-of-fact, professional. Nathan has filed for legal separation with the intent to pursue divorce proceedings. He's also filed for temporary custody of your daughter. He can't do that. He can't just decide we're getting divorced because I took one weekend away. Actually, he can. And it's not about one weekend, Iridian. It's about adultery. It's about abandonment. It's about a pattern of behavior that Nathan has documented quite thoroughly. Tom opened the file and began laying out photographs, phone records, and printed emails. My heart stopped as I recognized the evidence of my affair with Sean, laid out like a prosecution case. How did he get all of this? Your husband is an IT consultant, Iridian. He knows how to recover deleted files, track phone calls, and access social media data. He's been gathering evidence for weeks. I stared at the photos, Sean and me at the restaurant, walking to my car, embracing in the parking lot. They were grainy, clearly taken from a distance, but unmistakably damning. He had me followed. He hired a private investigator after he became suspicious of your behavior. The investigator documented multiple meetings with Sean Larkin, including your recent trip to Colorado. Tom slid a thick stack of papers across the desk. These are the separation papers. Nathan is requesting full custody of Maggie with supervised visitation for you. He's also asking for the house, his retirement accounts, and spousal support. Spousal support? He wants me to pay him? You're the one who abandoned the marriage, Iridian. You're the one who chose to have an affair. In this state, that matters. I flipped through the papers, the legal language blurring together. Petition for dissolution, irreconcilable differences, adultery, abandonment. Each word was like a nail in the coffin of my marriage. Where is Nathan? I need to talk to him. He doesn't want to see you right now. That's why we're handling this through legal channels. This is insane. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can figure this out like adults. Tom leaned back in his chair, studying me with the kind of look he usually reserved for opposing counsel. Iridian, let me be very clear about something. Nathan is done. He's not interested in counseling or working things out. He's interested in protecting his daughter and moving on with his life. His daughter? She's my daughter too. Is she? Because according to this evidence, you've spent the last 3 months prioritizing another man over your family. You left your daughter's birthday party to announce your affair. You abandoned your home to go on a romantic getaway with your lover. That doesn't sound like the behavior of a devoted mother. The words stung because they were true. I had prioritized Sean over Maggie. I had chosen my own happiness over my daughter's stability. I made mistakes, I said quietly, but that doesn't mean I don't love my daughter. Love isn't enough, Iridian, not in family court. What matters is stability, consistency, and putting the child's needs first. Can you honestly say you've done that? I couldn't, and we both knew it. What does Nathan want from me? Tom consulted his notes. He wants you to sign the separation papers. He wants you to agree to the custody arrangement. And he wants you to move out of the family home by the end of the week. And if I don't, then this gets ugly. Nathan has enough evidence to destroy you in court. The adultery, the abandonment, the emotional damage to your daughter. A judge will take all of that into account. You could end up with minimal visitation and a requirement to pay substantial support. I felt trapped, cornered like an animal with no way out. Can I think about it? Of course, but Nathan wants an answer by Friday. If you don't respond, he'll assume you're contesting the terms and will proceed accordingly. Tom stood up, signaling that the meeting was over. Iridian, I've known you and Nathan for a long time. I've seen you build a life together, watched Maggie grow up. I never thought I'd be sitting across from you in this capacity. Neither did I. For what it's worth, I think Nathan would be open to generous visitation if you cooperate with the separation. He's not trying to keep Maggie from you. He's trying to protect her from further trauma. As I walked out of the law office, the thick envelope of papers clutched in my hands, I felt like I was sleepwalking through a nightmare. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. I was supposed to find happiness with Sean, and Nathan was supposed to eventually understand and let me go gracefully. Instead, I was facing the complete destruction of my life. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the law office building and trying to process what had just happened. Nathan had outmaneuvered me completely. While I was playing romantic games with Sean, he was building a case against me. While I was feeling sorry for myself and justifying my affair, he was protecting our daughter and preparing for war. My phone rang. Sean's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time since we'd reconnected, I didn't want to answer it. "Hey, beautiful," he said when I finally picked up. "How did it go? Are you officially free?" "It's complicated." "What do you mean, complicated? I thought Nathan was this passive guy who would just roll over and let you go." "He's filing for divorce, and he wants custody of Maggie." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Wow, I didn't expect him to fight back like that." "He has evidence, Sean. Photos of us together, phone records, everything." Another pause, longer this time. That's not good." "No, it's not good. I could lose my daughter." "Hey, listen, maybe we should cool things off for a while, until this gets sorted out. I don't want to make things worse for you." The words hit me like ice water. Cool things off? Sean, I just blew up my entire life for you. I know, and I appreciate that. But this is getting really complicated, and I'm not sure I'm ready for this level of drama. Drama? My marriage is ending. I might lose custody of my child. And you think this is drama? Iridian, be reasonable. I'm not the marrying kind. You know that. I thought we were just having fun, reconnecting, seeing what happened. I didn't sign up for divorce lawyers and custody battles. The phone went quiet, except for the sound of my heart breaking. "So that's it? You're just going to disappear when things get difficult?" "I'm not disappearing. I'm just saying maybe we moved too fast. Maybe you need to focus on your family situation right now." "My family situation exists because of you, because of us." "No, Iridian. Your family situation exists because you were unhappy in your marriage. I just reminded you of that." The line went dead. Sean had hung up on me, leaving me alone in a parking lot with divorce papers in my lap and nowhere to go. I tried calling him back, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent a text, then another, then finally stopped myself before I completely humiliated myself. Sean was gone, just like that. The man I'd risked everything for had vanished the moment things got real. I sat in my car until the sun started setting, trying to figure out what to do next. I couldn't go home. Nathan had made it clear I wasn't welcome there. I couldn't go to Sheila's again. She'd already done enough damage by encouraging this disaster. I couldn't call my parents. They'd never forgiven me for getting pregnant with Maggie before I was married, and they certainly wouldn't support me leaving Nathan. Finally, I drove to a hotel near the airport and checked in for the night. The room was sterile and impersonal, nothing like the romantic bed and breakfast where I'd spent the weekend dreaming of my new life with Sean. As I lay on the uncomfortable hotel bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to planes take off and land, I realized that Nathan had been right about everything. The weekend with Sean had been a fantasy, a break from reality where there were no consequences, no responsibilities, no real life to deal with. Now reality had crashed down around me, and I was completely alone. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Nathan's number, my thumb hovering over the call button. What would I say? That I was sorry, that I'd made a terrible mistake, that I wanted to come home? But Nathan's letter had been clear. He was done. He wasn't going to be my backup plan when reality set in. I was on my own, facing the consequences of choices I'd convinced myself were brave and necessary. For the first time since this whole mess started, I wondered if I'd destroyed the only thing in my life that had actually been worth keeping, but it was too late now. The papers were signed, the evidence was gathered, and my husband had disappeared from my life just as completely as Sean had. I'd gotten exactly what I'd asked for, my freedom. I just hadn't realized how much it was going to cost,